versus the ANC. I'm joined by political analyst Professor Barry Hanyane and Advocate Mphonyana Mokwena, who's a legal analyst. Advocate Mokwena, to start off with you, take us through if there were any merits to Ace Magashule's appeal.
Okay, with regards to Ace Magashule's appeal, first of all, I will start with the High Court judgment. The issues that were raised there were whether the constitution of the ANC was correct. In terms of Rule 25(7) of the ANC Constitution, it was stating that if a member of the ANC is inconsistent with the resolution that has been made, such a person should be suspended. And if we look at the actions that were taken by Mr. Ace Magashule, they were inconsistent with regards to the ANC resolution. So when it comes to him appealing to the Supreme Court of Appeal, because the High Court was against him, like every argument on his notice of motion was not accepted by the court. So when he goes to the Supreme Court of Appeal, he has to come back with new facts, because the facts that he went with to the High Court were not sufficient to make his case.
Professor Hanyane speaks to us via telephone. Professor, we've noticed that a number of members of the ANC are continually appealing. Is this a pattern in the ANC? Professor Hanyane, can you hear me?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm struggling to hear you clearly.
Let me repeat my question. There seems to be a tendency by members of the ANC who lose court cases to continually appeal. Is this a pattern to note?
Sorry, I think we have a bad line. I can't hear your questions from this side.
Okay, we're clearly struggling to hear Professor Barry Hanyane. We will come back to him, but in the meantime, I will continue to speak to legal analyst, Advocate Mphonyana Mokwena. Now, Magashule, advocate, was ready to fight his suspension all the way to the Constitutional Court. Presumably, there are some merits to this argument.
First of all, when one wants to appeal to a constitutional court, they have to look at the merits of their case, whether they qualify to go to the constitutional court. So in this matter, Ace Magashule was actually fighting that the ANC resolution is unconstitutional. So I believe that he is able to appeal to the Constitutional Court, but I am not sure of whether he is going to make it to the Constitutional Court.
Can you explain why?
The fact that I do not have further facts from his matter. The only facts that I have were the ones that were concluded by the High Court, and the High Court decided to be against her. So with only those words, he cannot make it further.
Now, one of the things that Magashule said is he viewed the judgment as a politics versus the law. What do you read into this statement?
Can you please repeat that question?
Ace Magashule has said that the judgment is a clear indication of politics versus the law.
Because it was Ace Magashule who said that, so it is quite difficult for me to even explain further why he reasoned that way.
So his suggestions are that the reason he is being suspended are more political than they are legal.
Because this matter was taken to court, and the court decided fairly. Definitely when your matter is taken to the High Court, the courts will not look at any political issues. So what the court will do will look at the merits of the case and compare them with the law. So I do not think there was anything that was political.
Now, he's argued that he was not afforded an opportunity, if I can just read this here, that he was not afforded a hearing before his suspension. Was the ANC legally mandated to allow him a hearing?
What I know is that with regards to the ANC constitution, one is given an opportunity to go to come and explain why they should not step aside. That's the first part. So they should give out the reasons to the Integrity Commission to explain why they should not step aside. And from my following through social media and reading the news, I believe that he was taken to the Integrity Commission to have his side of the story heard before he was suspended.
I believe that Professor Barry is back on the line. Professor, if you can hear me, Ace Magashule said he viewed the judgment as a politics versus the law.
Yeah. A very good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to your viewers. I think we need to be careful here to conflate issues that are pretty much legal in nature versus political matters that the suspended SG is faced with. But it seems to be a growing culture within the governing party that as and when it suits certain people, the conflation of the two becomes the norm. It is easy for individuals to call or rather make reference to the point that rightly so, certain legal battles are equally political in nature, and that is not the case. But at the same time, it's an appreciation of the reality on the ground that the suspended SG has become an embattled person within the ANC's NEC echelon, and of course occupying the very engine of the party. He is faced with a number of challenges going forward. It is one particular position that requires stability, that requires focus, that requires total demonstration of political leadership without compromise. And unfortunately, all those virtues and values by extension are now under threat.
Now, the suspended Secretary General has said that his rights were trampled on. Are you in agreement? What are these rights that were trampled on, if so?
It's very difficult to understand that argument at a time when surely the courts have already pronounced independently that indeed a violation of a kind is observed here. What is interesting is that the very same court says, look, your organizational constitution, that is the ANC's constitution, is in keeping and in line with the values of the country's constitution. This I would urge the ANC should really celebrate at a time when one would presume that some of its activists and members are likely to wage some kind of a legal battle in the future. So this augurs well for the party going forward in making sure that those who join the party do so voluntarily, but what is critical is, of course, to abide by the rules and regulations of the party as, of course, law-abiding members and citizens of the country.
Professor, how does all this impact the ANC moving forward?
Well, look, it's a painful period in the history of the ANC. There is no doubt about that. And I think the acknowledgement by the President that this is necessary is something that must be lauded. We need to understand, for the past years, the ANC was somewhat lax when it comes to issues of organizational integrity. No wonder why today we speak of issues of state capture. No wonder why today we speak of issues of party ill-discipline, for instance. In order to rebuild, recapture the key values of Nazareth, of unity, of renewal, and perhaps building a party for the future, which I'd like to coin it as modernization of the party. Surely this pain is necessary. And in a sense, setting the tone to say, come the next decade, come the next 50 years, the kind of ANC that people would like to see is one that promotes integrity, is one that promotes discipline, is one that is united above all.
Now, finally, Ace Magashule has said he is going to appeal this judgment. What does it do to his relations, certainly with his colleagues in the ANC?
Yeah. Yeah. I think internally one would not shy away from thinking that relations, especially amongst the top six, is somewhat strained. More so when you look at cases that involves the Minister of Health. So the question should be asked, the issues of trust, the issues of confidence amongst each other as comrades, as cadres of the movement, is it really there? The issue of shared common vision, the issue of seeing each other as a united force, are all these qualities still there? My suspicion is that all of these qualities are somewhat strained, and perhaps mistrust has somewhat become the order of the day.
Professor Barry Hanyane, political